Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Thanks for stopping by for another video where I will be covering the latest updates around Bitcoin. We'll be doing technical analysis of CleanSpark. I'll share with you my price predictions of where I think the stock price is headed, as well as price predictions with Bitcoin. We'll also be covering the latest updates around social media on X with where we see the recent news that was just announced with CleanSpark. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. We're looking at this interesting visual. So on the left is the performance that we saw in the prior bull run in 2020, where we saw Bitcoin price go through like consolidation phase after that bear cycle of 2022, where Bitcoin was hovering below 10,000. Then it had that little mini breakout. Then it started hovering in this phase and then broke down again. That's where we thought that Bitcoin just lost all signs of hope. Then it started just hovering, consolidating at around 11,000. And then what happened? It just broke out significantly. Are we seeing the similar patterns post the recent halving in 2024 April timeframe where we're seeing consolidation for many months in 2024 where, you know, the Trump announcement winning back in November, it had that breakout into that all-time high of 108,000 and then just distributing into that phase and then just with the recent retracement, are we in the same time frame where we're seeing that macro higher low consolidation before we reach that Valhalla moment where we're gonna, break into that $130,000? It's very possible that history will repeat itself. It's only a matter of time for us to know. I'd like to cover technical analysis of Bitcoin. So where we see the current price, market participants invested in Bitcoin and traders, are really just having price right now at 83,000. Obviously, today we saw Bitcoin price at like 86,000 when the market opened. However, it dropped by about 3%. This was all related to the recent news that just got announced in that even though there's exclusions with electronics on tariffs and all that, we're beginning to see more market uncertainty. Yes, there was good news around Nvidia investing hundreds of billions of dollars into the United States, advancing macro scale manufacturing, improving United States efficiency with advanced AI technology. Now, Nvidia just recently got hit with a new licensing requirement anytime when Nvidia would like to sell, export into like the China market. And that really is a political, strategic move to advance the United States to be the leading country when it comes to advancing the innovation of technology. So I get that. However, from a Wall Street standpoint, does that mean that there's going to be more volatility coming? And what would that do to the price of Bitcoin? So I think Bitcoin is holding up quite well with what we're seeing. I mean, even though it went up to 108,000, the fact that Bitcoin is hovering, in that $80,000, it's not too far from 90K, 100K. So Bitcoin has established itself. It's only going to continue to go up. I think that 130, 150K in Q3 is that sweet spot that we may very well see. Although there's more predictions from Tom Lee, and I would recommend staying through the end where you will see this clip where there's anticipation of Bitcoin going to $3 billion. So I would encourage you to stay for the rest of the video. But what does this mean for companies like CleanSpark? Just based on technicals, CleanSpark has been taking a big beating. Today, the entire mining sector got impacted. I mean, CleanSpark dropped by about 6%, even though yesterday it gained by 3.5%. What we're seeing based on where the market participants are leading the price action is even though it had a prior resistance of like $24 back in March of last year, about a year ago, the prior resistance back in November was close to $18, but it's been just bleeding out, suppressed down to that, that low $650. I think we're at that point where we may very well see a breakout reverse bullish pattern, even though today we saw a lot more volatility, relative strength. The fact that we had oversold situation back in February, I don't think that RSI is going to continue to go down. I think it's going to gradually pick up along with seeing signs of MACD. We see a lot of, convergence with the red signals with MACD, but I believe that there's going to be that MACD crossing the 12-day to 26-day where we're going to see MACD bullish divergence signals kick in. And for those reasons, CleanSpark is definitely great opportunity to dollar cost average if you believe in CleanSpark. But again, this isn't financial advice. Always do your research, especially investing in any stock right now. There's volatility, but whenever the price goes down by like 50, 60%, it's much better to buy now than buying it at the top. So even if you are at the top with your cost average, whether you can sprinkle more, you have belief in CleanSpark. I do think that over the course of time, technicals will tell us that there is always going to be an overbought situation. So CleanSpark, I definitely see upside getting into that double digit range, but there's no question that definitely it has that ability to reach that $24 threshold again in this year. Let's take a look at just recent postings from CleanSpark. So, from Bitcoin News, CleanSpark has expanded its credit facility with Coinbase Prime to $200 million and launched an institutional grade Bitcoin treasury desk with over 12,000 Bitcoin on CleanSpark's balance sheet. The company will begin using a portion of its monthly Bitcoin production to fund operations. This moves away from its nearly 100% HODL strategy. Unlike peers relying on equity dilution or debt to fuel growth, CleanSpark is leveraging its Bitcoin treasury to optimize risk management, support operations, and reduce shareholder dilution. Now, in the past, CleanSpark has done this where during the bull market when price of Bitcoin went up, they sold Bitcoin to scale the operations, much better than when Bitcoin price was in a bear cycle and you're selling off your HODL. So whether CleanSpark is selling at the right time, only time will tell. It's only a matter of time to see whether Bitcoin price will continue to appreciate or depreciate. But I think this is a different strategy that they're taking on. So let's see how this would ultimately benefit the company. So it could benefit the company overall to reduce the liabilities on the balance sheet and to support minimizing any additional dilution, which we saw significantly in 2024, especially when the price ran up to like $24. Here's an interesting post from Matt C. Bitcoin miner CleanSpark has entered its self-funding phase. Instead of empty promises of AI deals, they're moving towards less dilution and a pivot to profitability. So what we're seeing is, the CleanSpark's goal is to, self-fund through this Coinbase account, operating leverage, bringing down the liability. Here's an interesting visual. No caption needed from Terrox Investing. So obviously we know that while price continues to go down, big time financial institutions like BlackRock take advantage. I mean, take a look at the rising increase in the amount of shares that financial institutions are just hodling a CleanSpark. Why are they doing this? They know that while people get shaken out, retail investors try to sell, minimize risk, they're stacking because why? They know that CleanSpark, along with other mining sectors and Bitcoin, the stock price will continue to appreciate because what goes down will eventually go back up. Here's an interesting comparison between CleanSpark and IREN. So these are like the top two miners that have very good technology when it comes to mining Bitcoin. They're using the latest and greatest technology, for example, S21 Pro miners, where the fleet efficiency cost to mine using less energy output, which means less cost expenditures to mine Bitcoin. So you see here with CleanSpark, total cash cost to mine a Bitcoin equated to 54,797. IREN is like the leading number one company with a very efficient cost expenditure, $40,091 per the price of Bitcoin. Now, IREN, they don't have a HODL strategy. They, in fact, just sell every Bitcoin that they mine. So CleanSpark is doing similar approach, selling a portion of their monthly production now that they have about over 700 Bitcoins mined every month. So we see a difference between the two. CleanSpark ranked number two when it comes to fleet efficiency, costs to mine. However, hash rate is much more different when it comes to CleanSpark and IREN when it comes to the monthly production numbers. So, very interesting take when we look at the difference between the two top leading efficient companies when it comes to cost to mine one Bitcoin. With that, I want to play a quick video clip of Vaneck forecasting Bitcoin going to $3 million.
And then over the longer term, we think there's a good chance that central banks and sovereign wealth funds will start to get more aggressive in adopting Bitcoin, not only as a store of value, but also as a medium exchange. So this year, the Czech Republic, the governor of the central bank there, has initiated a study to analyze Bitcoin for inclusion in their central bank reserves. And then just this week, Russia did a trade with China partially denominated in Bitcoin, beginning to really use Bitcoin for the first time as a medium of exchange. And that's not for individuals buying coffee. That's for large scale transactions where countries are using Bitcoin as an intermediary currency to do, say, an oil trade. And in that scenario where Bitcoin denominated trade could be, say, 5% of global trade, we get to a $3 million price per Bitcoin. That's a long-term prediction, like 2050. But that's going to be necessary, we think, to elevate Bitcoin into the millions per coin.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your price prediction of Bitcoin and CleanSpark is. And I really appreciate you watching. Let me know what your comments are. And if you're new, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. I'll see you on the next one, guys.